These all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrode.
They did the mash.
They did the monster
The
mash.
monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
They did the mash.
They did the monster mash. The zombies were heavy.
Hey, get you into the spirit. Happy Halloween. Everybody do the Monster Mash. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group. Happy Tuesday. You know, I at least when I was younger, I always was upset when Halloween wasn't on the weekend or at least on a Friday night. You know, during the middle of the week, you're like, because Mom was going to make you be home early because you had to go to school tomorrow and all that stuff. But happy Halloween anyway. I hope this finds you well. It's finally turning into fall here. I heard a rumor that it may only be in the 80s today, which in Arizona, that's when we start bragging about how awesome it is to live here. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The best website without a doubt in the industry at allamericangold.com. We keep you all comfortably disturbed. Great. You know what, today? You know, not that it's, you know, it can't be great every day. You do the best you can with what's out there. But, Ramon, just really a good website today. A lot of great information out there. And as I get ready, we are going to divide and conquer at my house. So my older son, yeah, who knows? I mean, if he graces us with his presence, you know, he's a senior in high school. He's 18. He doesn't trick-or-treat. I have no idea what he's doing, probably nothing. My younger son is going to a Halloween party with his lady friend, and my wife is going as well. And she was telling me they're going to be Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. And then I was telling this to Ramon, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought the Big Bad Wolf was with the Three Little Pigs. But Arlene and Ramon both said to me, no, there's two Big Bad Wolves. One for Little Red Riding Hood and one for the Three Little Pigs. I cannot confirm if they're related. Maybe they were brothers. I don't know.
Could be a conspiracy. They are the same wolf.
Could be the same wolf, right? Which has nothing to do with the Three Bears, by the way. But nonetheless, yeah, that's what he's doing. So I get to stay home and hand out the candy to the trick-or-treaters. And as my wife and I have gotten older, we've gotten very, very bad at wanting to devour the Halloween candy for ourselves before the trick-or-treaters show up. It used to be my wife would, you know, she would have bought this candy like a week ago. And then the problem was we'd be all out of it, and she'd have to go buy more. So today, she hasn't even bought it yet. This is our new strategy is don't buy the Halloween candy till right before the trick-or-treaters show up, so that way we don't eat it all. But, yes, me and the wiener dog are going to be handing out the trick-or-treat stuff. I don't even know what it is. That's the great thing. My wife will surprise me. And I'm becoming a trick-or-treat snob, right? I don't want to be known as the house where they give out the bad candy, right? We're definitely not doing like pencils and erasers and stuff like that, but I want to, maybe a fun-sized candy bar. Hopefully she got me something good versus, I don't know, like the bubble gum and the Starburst and all that. I'll leave that for the other folks. So anyway, honey, if you're listening, that is my request for the Halloween candy. Speaking of, trick-or-treat, the federal government racked up quite a bill as the last day of October is coming off the calendar. The federal government is going to run a one-month budget deficit of over $200 billion. Now, some of that, remember when we had the debt, I told you it's going to take a while. Yeah, it's getting bigger. The funny thing is October, outside outside of, okay, so when you look at government revenues, there's the biggest month is April, right? Because that's the taxes are due, and everyone lines up at the post office. Because let's face it, you don't want to give the money to the government until you absolutely have to. And then for those that file extensions, those come due in October. So October is the second best revenue month for the federal government, and the deficit number far exceeds what anybody was expecting, and by about double. And so you kind of, again, nobody wants to talk about it. You're not going to hear about it. I was watching Fox and Friends this morning. Nobody was talking about it whatsoever. We'll break down where the money went. Is Sears going to make it to Christmas? Somebody says they may already be out of money, and that's thousands of stores. And we'll also recap where we're at as far as retail goes as a whole in the United States. I'll just tell you that 2017 is already the worst year in retail history. To think about that, the stock market's at all-time highs, and they're pretending that there's no debts involved in that either. But don't worry, everything's going to be wonderful. And then real disposable income. And really, when you talk about income, does any other kind of income matter other than real disposable income? In other words, hey, this isn't some fluff piece. This is actually how much money you have to spend. A big report came out yesterday. We're going to break it all down for you. It's got another great show lined up for you. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful Halloween, right? Make sure, watch out for those kitties. Drive a little slower in the neighborhood tonight. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Buying, selling, or trading. We do it all. Yesterday, and I'll just kind of keep reminding you here as the holiday seasons are approaching. If you know you're going to be selling, make sure you give yourself plenty of time. Especially, a lot of people are out there. Hey, I'm closing on a house, or I'm closing on this, or I've got to pay my taxes. Right? I filed the extension and they're due. You need to give yourself plenty of time to do it. And yesterday, we actually had a customer selling back some product, and she said to me, she goes, I just feel bad because I really don't want to sell it, but I don't want you to be mad at me. We're not going to be mad at you. We get it. That's what you have it for. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, you put it away. You hope you don't have to use it, but if you need to, we're here for you. So if you need to sell, call us. You know what you need to buy? Call us. You want to trade your gold to silver, trade your silver to gold, give us a call, 800-951-0592. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? We had a bunch of survey reports out today, and they were wonderful, right? They call up their stock buddies. Hey, how do you feel about the economy? Well, we feel pretty good because we're going to get a bunch of money, right? And the highest level since the dot-com crash, right? All of these signs that tell you, it's time to get ready because, it just doesn't add up, right? When you have all-time high pricing and all-time high PE ratios, and then when you talk to the stock guys, they're like, oh, yeah, it's wonderful. That's probably usually the time you need to start heading the other way. Yesterday, they had personal income and spending and all of those things come out. And this was the report for the hurricane. So this was a September number. Consumer spending rose very strongly as all these people in Houston had to buy a car. And then the savings rate got clobbered. Matter of fact, they were saying at the end of September, the savings rate is the lowest since 2007. We kind of know what that really means. And this is kind of what I've been saying. So many people are near the end of their rope. In the data on personal income and outlays for September, by the way, Wolf Richter. And if you don't know Wolf Richter, if you don't follow his stuff, we do a lot of his stuff. I probably do at least an article a week of his on the air. He does a lot of great research. He's on our website all the time. He's the one, I want to give credit where credit is due, was a hefty shot of reality for Americans. And here's the funny part. Today, they're all happy because the billionaires are happy. Yesterday, not so much because most of America isn't doing so well. It says that the reality that many Americans have been feeling in their wallets on a daily basis, on a personal level, so per individual, or what they call per capita. So when you hear per capita in any type of a report, you're talking about individuals. The disposable income adjusted for inflation doesn't look so good, right? And really, when you talk about income, you're talking about, okay, I got my paycheck, and how far does it go? In fact, real disposable income declined in September and actually has been declining since May. So you take May, June, July, August, September. At first glance, as per the headlines, the data looked really good. Matter of fact, when I came in the morning, it really did. And this is kind of, like I said, the media isn't really the media, right? You have what I call the debt media, right? That's your CNBCs, your Bloombergs, your Foxes, and they're just cheerleaders for the billionaires. You know what? We should probably call it billionaire TV. U.S. consumer spending rose robustly in September, said the Wall Street Journal. Personal income, which includes wages and government assistance, you can guess which part of that was up and which part was it, was up 0.4% from August, which probably equates to like 38 cents. But the New York Times wrote, U.S. consumer spending grows at the fastest pace since 2009. Savings drop. It pointed out the drop in the savings suggested that September's robust pace of spending is not sustainable. And like I said, most of it probably had to do with, because there was a big jump in cars, and I'm making a guess that these people in Houston were trying to buy an automobile. But none of those, quite honestly, were important because they're seasonally adjusted. They make so many little things in there for, like, you know, the government assistance part and Obamacare and all of these things. The most important part of the number is the drop in disposable income. Consumer spending, because that's what grabbed the headlines, right? The best number since 2009, rose 2.7% from a year ago. Just to put that in perspective, because they wanted to make you think it was the best number since 2009, and what a great number. But if you actually go back to 2010 and you look at the personal consumer, I want to get it right, personal consumption expenditure is what they refer to it as. If you go back to the last 10 years, the last 7 years, by the way, the number never goes down, just so you know. The lowest was plus 1%, and that was October of 2012 and again on April of 2013. The peak was 4.2% in January of 2015, right? And really, I've been telling you, we've been kind of on this decline. After, 2014 was a probably pretty decent year, 2015 a little worse, 2016 a little worse. We're into 2017. By the way, the peak was 4.2. So the 2.7 was kind of right in the middle. Consumer spending is what the media focused on. And there's a reason. Number one, it never goes down. Right? Number two, remember what media they're talking about. Right? They're talking about billionaire media. Right? We've lost. They're not even reporters anymore. They claim to be, but they're really not. They're glorified cheerleaders. The report's larger section of real disposable income. See, when you take out the fake stuff, you're only left with the real stuff, right? And who wants to look at that, right? Everybody says it all the time. Double, it's just too much reality. I don't want that much reality. But you know what? I think about it. I watch a lot of reality TV all of a sudden. I don't know how it happened because when it first came on, I hated it. But nonetheless, real disposable income only rose 1.2%, or even less than what the Federal Reserve said their inflation number was. In other words, you got poor. So if you were a real person in America, you had less disposable income this year compared to last year. Now, it was up 1.2, but inflation was 1.6. The Fed's inflation, by the way, not what was real. In reality, as you know, is probably 4, 5, 6%. Disposable income is based on wages, receipts from assets such as interest and dividends, rents, farm income, government benefits such as Social Security, Medicare, VA benefits, so all the benefit programs. And they said that minus contributions for government social insurance and the like, and minus personal taxes. So in other words, hey, forget it. This is after payroll taxes, after all that stuff. When you take out all the things for your taxes and whatnot, at the end of the week, how big is the check? And really, when you think about it, shouldn't that be the number that we really care about? Does it matter what any other number is? Because when it comes to spending, right, you're unlike the government, we all can't go out and continue to spend more than we make. So disposable income up 1.2% year over year. That's it. And so if to put that into perspective, if you made $500 a week, okay, which a lot of people, unfortunately, that's all they make, $500 a week, you make about $26,000. If you just took 1%, you're talking about $5 a week. Okay, so according to the actual government data, minus all the BS, okay, get rid of it all. Forget about adjustments. Forget about anything that the Federal Reserve tries to say happened, like, well, you probably had a garage sale, right? You sold stuff on eBay, right? I don't know what they count. And it really kind of makes me wonder, what are they really reporting? Because if real wages only went up 1.2%, how could we have spent 2.7? But you can't. Right? Because at the end of the year, I mean, if that was the average, you'd be spending, 15% more than what you made. So when you look at the consumer, they made an extra, Starbucks a week? Can you buy a Starbucks for $5? No, Arlene, I'm asking Arlene here because she does go to Starbucks. I don't, so I don't know, but she says no. Can't get a Starbucks for $5. It says the consumer, when you leave disposable income, you actually had less. Real disposable income per capita, a function of income, taxes, inflation, population growth, and whatnot, peaked in May and has declined every month since. It declined in June. It declined in July. It declined in August. It declined again in September. In September, it declined 0.1% from August compared to a year ago, and it's not huge, but you can see it's slowly eating away. By the way, if you go back over the last 2 years, and this kind of should tell you all you need to know, real disposable income, September 2015 to September 2017, isn't even up 1%. It's not even up $5. Not 500, you know. And you think about all the things and how much things are costing, and you're like, wait a minute. How can anything they be saying be true? How can we have 3% GDP if no one's making any more money? That's always been an interesting question, and now we kind of understand how. Right? It gets piled on and piled on and piled on, and they make all these adjustments, and they do all of these things, and now I guess what's starting to happen is the savings rate is starting to reflect what the real reality is. Right? And the real reality is more and more Americans are getting closer to the brink. And it is what it is. That number actually fits. Right? If we have more credit card defaults, more people falling behind on student loans, more people not making their car payment, kind of stands to reason they don't have the money. Right? I mean, most people try to pay their bills. Patriot Radio News Hour, something to think about on a Halloween. We'll be back right after the break.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Mrs. Schlafly was a courageous and articulate voice for traditional values and common sense for more than 70 years. Now, from the Phyllis Schlafly Center Studios, here's Ryan Haidt.
In the March 1993 Phyllis Schlafly Report, Phyllis demonstrated that the best way to cut through liberal talking points is often to simply define their terms. While no one would deny that children have certain rights, as do adults, the globalists only want to create rights that they can control. Children, whether born or unborn, are endowed by their Creator with an inalienable right to life. Yet the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child gave no definitive stance against this legalized infanticide. Why then should we sign a treaty giving a right to, quote, rest and leisure when the UN will not even protect a child's very right to exist? Where the treaty demanded that children had the right to view, quote, the media of the child's choice, Phyllis questioned why the international community felt it could require parents to let their children watch television. Where the treaty demanded that children had the right to, quote, rest and leisure, Phyllis questioned whether the international courts would side with a child who refused to do his homework or chores on the grounds that it interfered with his so-called right to rest and leisure. When applied to reality, these rights that children supposedly are entitled to don't seem quite so humanitarian as the globalists would have us think. Since America First is the antithesis of globalism, it seems only right that globalists would attack President Trump on this crucial pillar of his presidency. Thankfully, we can cut through the globalists' liberal talking points the same way today as they try to stop Trump's bold America First agenda. When they talk about doing our part in the, quote, global economy, they're really talking about making trade deals that favor other nations over America. When they talk about us being a, quote, global leader in handling climate change, they're actually talking about placing ridiculous regulations on American industry while leaving countries like China free to go back on their word and ignore those same climate treaties. Globalists don't stand a chance against proud red-blooded Americans if we cut through the carefully chosen, politically calculated jargon and expose them for being the anti-American frauds they truly are.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. In 2016, the conservative movement lost one of our strongest leaders, but Mrs. Schlafly's work and her voice continue through this radio program, our work in Washington, and the influence you have in your own community. Be part of that legacy at phyllisschlafly.com. We encourage you to bookmark phyllisschlafly.com and join us again for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
Welcome back, 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. You know, it's never the news that you need to hear, right? And you think about whether it was Las Vegas and the tragedy there or Harvey Weinstein, right? Well, I don't know. I'm not shocked. Right? Am I shocked by all of these people? You know, and I do think it's kind of amusing. You know, the Hollywood scene of they're very liberal, right? And they like to try to tell us and tell everybody how we should live and all of these things, and yet they're out there. Well, anyway, you can hear about Harvey Weinstein somewhere else. Now we got Robert Mueller, right, and his indictments and all of those things, and then we've got the government and the billionaire media misrepresenting what is really happening to Americans. You know, yesterday I said 90% only make 49% of the money. The other 10% now make over half of all the money. But very quietly, and it's very interesting. Nobody wants to talk about it. But something is amiss when it comes to the national debt. In the month of October, which is the very first month for fiscal year 2018. Now, I've already told you, no matter what happens, right, we are in the super cycle. Every year, 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, we take massive jumps in debt of obligation, like Medicare, Social Security. Just those two programs alone are going to add $1 trillion in spending over the next 9 years. $1 trillion between the two of them. Right? So you think about the government spent over $4 trillion this last year. That means we're going to be spending at least $5 trillion, and we haven't even paid for anything else yet. We only brought in $3 trillion, and we want to bring in less next year, right? So kind of start doing some math. The astonishing thing about October is supposed to be a good month. Remember when I started the program, right? There's 2 good months for the Treasury, April and October. Right, April, because we know April, that's the traditional, everyone goes to the post office. But October's for all the guys that file extensions. The tax extension deadline means that October is usually a good month for federal tax receipts. And just like we suspect, it has been. The taxpayer has written checks totaling $190 billion in October. So $190 billion for the month of October, which when you look at revenue is most likely going to be the second highest month for fiscal 2018. Despite being flush with tax revenue, the government still managed to pile up almost $250 billion more than it took in. So you think about it, they took in $190 billion. They spent almost $440 billion in the month of October. The government, the most important economy in the world, without a doubt, is the U.S. government. Right? Really, when you think about our economy now, the U.S. government is, 20 to 25% of all GDP in the country? And, of course, we're bankrupt. We just haven't admitted it yet. You would think this would be front-page news in every major news outlet in the world. Yet I don't even know if it got reported. I know I got the Arizona Republic, it wasn't in there. I know if you turn on your local news, you won't hear about it. And then, of course, we just did the story about real disposable income. No one talked about that either. It's shrugged off as par for the course, right? They want to pretend that it no longer matters, right? Remember Donald Trump, they wanted to get rid of the debt ceiling, right? Then they're probably going to have to because it's just too much work. Consider the following. The United States government spends nearly the entirety of its tax revenue on 3 programs: Social Security, Medicare, and interest on the debt. It used to be 4. You used to be able to get Social Security, Medicare, defense, and interest on the debt, and then everything else you had to borrow for. This last year, we didn't get that far because when you added in defense, we went into deficit, right? The defense and interest those two numbers are fairly close. I think the defense spending was $575 billion, $576. I think interest on the debt was $478, if I'm right, something like that. So they're within $100 billion of each other. So we're already into debt before we pay anything else. And you think about what would it take to fix it. Now remember, how many years ago was it that all of these people ran on balancing the budget? Right? They don't even talk about it. Now we talk about somehow by going further into debt, we're going to increase revenues, right? That's their new mantra. Over the past 8 decades, since the end of World War II, tax rates in the United States have been all over the board, mostly down, but all over the board. And this is really important because we're going to kind of talk about the Trump tax cuts here in this light. The highest marginal tax rate on individual income had been as high as 92% in 52 and 53. It's been as low as 28%, 88 to 90. Okay, right now it's what, 39%, I think, the highest one. Corporate tax rates were as high as 53 and as low as 34. Now we want to go lower. Just keep this in mind. We're going to talk about taxes and what it does to the debt when we return. Now, it's been argued by me, and I've said this. Now, I hate sounding liberal. If we truly want prosperity, if we truly want liberty and freedom, and I use the word truly for a reason, because a lot of people, when you talk about freedom and prosperity, liberty, right? They're all, oh yeah, I want that. But then they also, in the same foot, say, well, I want free health care, I want free school, I want free this and that, and I want the government to subsidize this and the other and all that. Then you really don't. See, that's not what it is. That's not what our founding fathers had intended. And quite honestly, the reason why is our founding fathers were very good at understanding history. And they tried to put safeguards in the Constitution to protect us against the people that would like to infringe on this. And those people, I'll say those people, but they're the same people that run the billionaire news stations and the same people that seemingly now decide that fake news is the real news. They're all the same. It doesn't matter if you raise taxes or cut taxes. It doesn't. It almost really has no effect. And people, oh, come on! But I'm going to share it with you. You're going to see. If we truly want this stuff, we need less government. Period. We need to take it all away. And I can tell you right now, that's not happening. And maybe I don't want to admit defeat, but this is what it is. Until we go bankrupt, it's not going to change. So we got to say over the last 80 years, taxes have been everywhere. A marginal rate of 92%, the highest. A low of 28%. We're at 39%. I mean, it's been up, it's been down. Corporate tax rate. Up, down. Capital gain. Been as high as 35%. Been as low as 15%. Right, those are our taxes for our billionaire buddies. Yet through it all, if you go back and you chart the last 80-plus years, as a percentage of GDP, the amount that we collect in taxes has hardly budged. And now GDP's gone up, it's gone down, but as a percentage, it doesn't really change. Whether they cut taxes, whether they increase taxes, it doesn't change. We either need to make a conscious decision to shrink the government or go bankrupt. And as you go bankrupt, what happens is more and more and more of us become dependent upon the government, and therefore it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when you get to that point, those that hold the gold are going to do the best. And don't get me wrong. Whether you hold one $20 gold piece or 1,000 of them, still not going to be a lot of fun. Still not going to be a lot of fun. According to the government's own tax records, as a percentage of GDP, tax revenue invariably comes in at around 17% of GDP. And that's all U.S. economic value is paid to the federal government in tax revenue. It doesn't matter how high or how low the rates are set. So even if you jack the rates back up, right, it's not going to help. The only realistic way for us to eventually come out of this is capitulation, with another word for default. This could mean selectively defaulting from holders of U.S. debt, right? We could decide, well, you know what? We're not going to pay the Chinese or the Japanese. We're not going to pay the Federal Reserve or the Social Security Trust Fund, right? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's no accident that this is in the article talking about the trust fund. I brought it up a couple of weeks ago. Some of you actually looked it up. By the way, this is Sovereign Man, in case you want to know, also on our website today. Because, listen, we want you to be educated. I want you to know this stuff. Social Security is a tax in the eyes of the law. The Supreme Court has already ruled. I've already told you we spent more in Social Security than we brought in last year. Now, they had some fake interest some fake securities that say, not quite. That won't happen until next year, right? But it doesn't really matter. 10 years from today, there's going to be no money, real or fake. Every extra dollar we spend on Social Security is an extra dollar of debt. But why don't they care about not fixing it? Because they know legally we have no claim. They don't have to give us any money, much less 100% or 75% or 50% of whatever the benefit was supposed to be. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. Final segment on this Tuesday, 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. You know. And Social Security is an easy one, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's 2032 or 2031 or 2027. It's going to be insolvent. Medicare, same thing, right? We're spending more than what we're taking in, and they're going to be insolvent. What do you think we're going to do? Now, here's the scary part. Because they tell us, at least on Social Security, that they'll only be able to pay 76%. And let's just say, let's round it to 75%. Okay, if we only could pay 75%, percent of the benefits, what does that number really mean for us? And the answer really is pretty simple. When you put a pen to a paper, you're talking about a government that would have to all of a sudden overnight start increasing the national debt, which by this time is already going to be north of $40 trillion. Start going on a debt for that will at that point will be well over $2 trillion a year, but add another trillion for Medicare and Social Security and all of those things, and of course we know that that's not very logical, right? So either we're going to cut everybody's pay, right, by 25%, which most of us can't even fathom that being a possibility. Right, we're going to either have another massive Great Depression of epic proportions. We're going to have some form of cascading inflation because they operate and say, the heck with it, we'll just print the money. Right, interest rates are going to go sky high, and they're just going to run the printing presses as fast as they can. Either way, it doesn't matter what scenario it is. There's not a rosy one. I wish there was. I wish there was another side of the coin that says we could do it. We did have that opportunity in the late 90s. We did. Of course, then we found out all of the great economic, the great tech bubble and all that stuff blew up, and all of the budget deficit numbers turned out to be wrong. And next thing you know, instead of having the debt paid off, right, it's risen by almost $16 billion. $16 trillion, sorry. Are you going to prepare? You think you're going to be able to prepare, a month ahead of time, a year ahead of time, 5 years ahead of time? You think that's enough? 800-951-0592. If you want to place an order, remember, if you want to sell, if you're thinking about selling, get it done. Give yourself the time. 800-951-0592. We'll be back tomorrow on a hump day.